What up everyone, this is Jason here, and this is the brand new, just came out, Empire Mini GS. Now, they have done a lot of changes from this version of the Mini to the regular Mini that we all know. So this video is mostly going to be about us digging and diving into the marker to explain the changes and a couple really good upgrades that come with the Mini GS. So let's just get the Mini out. And there it is. So the color scheme that we went with is gray and orange. The orange is a dust and the gray is a dust. It's not polished. So it's not bright, it's dull. So what we're going to talk about first is a few cosmetics. Then we'll dive into the internals. So the first thing is when you're looking at this, it does share a lot of the parts from the Vanquish and from the Axe. So, for example, you have the rubber front, like the Vanquish. You have the high pressure regulator with the smaller on-off, just like the Vanquish. You have the feed neck, like a lot of the newer Axes, and of course the Vanquish, and you have the trigger it comes with. Another really cool thing that they did is you only need 2 Allens that come with the marker. That is it. You don't have to worry about that tiny ass Allen in the front or the smaller Allens to adjust your trigger. All that can be done with 2 Allen keys now, nothing more. So, cosmetically, we already know that the GS Mini comes with rubber grips on the back and the front, which they have redesigned. This Mini actually comes with a low profile feed neck instead of the long feed neck, which I always recommend to get rid of. They have really trimmed this body down. We actually held this Mini up to a standard Mini. This is the GS, so the GS on a standard Mini. This is smaller, okay? So, cosmetically, as you can see, this does not protrude out as far anymore. They actually have redesigned this bolt, which we will show you in the video. The trigger guard has gone all the way to the front of the front grip, or to the end of the front grip, I'm sorry. It does have a easier regulator now to maintain. You don't have to take off 15,000 screws, it seems like, to actually get in, clean it, and reposition everything. It can actually unscrew without a problem, okay? But of course, when the marker is pressurized, it's not going to unscrew. Just like the Axe, just like the Mini, when you gas up the marker, you want it to be a little bit below 200. You don't want it to be at 200. Once you start playing, if it starts getting warmer, it's going to raise, and then you will be shooting hot. So take that under consideration, please, everybody. That is it as far as cosmetics. Now, internally, they've done a bunch of changes, okay? So the first change we want to talk about. This now is a Microswitch Marker. It is not a opto or a helix. What that is the original Minis had a sensor in here that once the sensor was broken, the marker shut. I don't like those. There's too many complications. I like a micro switch. As soon as the micro switch is active, the marker shoots. That's how this is designed. So great improvement there. The bolt assembly, instead of actually having to set the set pin on the top, now the pin is on the bottom, allowing them to shave more from the top assembly, which we will show you as well. This entire assembly, the board is right here, and it is basically a casing around it, which we will remove the grip to discuss that. So let's go ahead. We're going to actually separate this marker in 2 pieces to really go over it. So the first thing we want to cover, let's go ahead and take off the front grip. Okay? So, now the good thing is, like I'm saying, they only use a few screws. All the small screws work in all the grips. So you don't have to worry about mixing up the front grip or the back grip or any of that. You don't have to worry about that anymore. There's one side. Let's go ahead and get the other side now. Okay. So now, let's go ahead and remove the grip. There we go. So now, there is the front assembly. So now what they've done, your board is still in the same position. But what they did, now you don't have play anymore. The battery sits perfectly. They are no longer using a connector. They are using a prong system with a plus and a minus on the marker's front grip. So you know where the battery goes. So we'll go ahead and take the battery out. With the other generations of mini N-axes, you have the 2 screws here, and you have to slide this out. Not anymore. This now comes off with your assembly. So let's go ahead and take it apart for you guys. When you want to detach, you need to remove, or at least loosen, the top screw on the upper part of the grip. The reason why, if you do not do that, you're going to begin to scratch your solenoid. You have now a screw in the back, a screw in the mid, and a screw in the front. This is what actually removes it. So we'll go ahead. Let's get that one off first. Okay. Now this is not a toolless bolt remover. It's just like the regular Mini, but I'll show you what they've changed to make it a bit easier. The next screw, next Allen is right here. So what they've at least done is with the longer Allens, it allows you to get to these screws, but still be careful because if not, you might scratch the body. As you can see, it takes a lot of turns. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, there's one screw. Now, same thing in the back. I recommend to at least use the L shape in the Allen. Get it loose, then you can begin to use the long part. Only reason why is if you try to use the long part immediately, you might break your Allen or strip your Allen screw, which is not fun to do. Okay? So now, we'll set these to the side and wiggle it off. Okay, so just going to talk about the front grip first. There is now the front assembly. With the axe trigger, you have a magnetic, you have a pre, then you have the post and the microswitch activator. Cool little thing, if you turn your gun on and it's going into programming mode automatically, that's too close to the micro. Back it out a little bit. Okay, so there it is. So now, as you can see, you don't have to remove the front grip, then disassemble the marker. It comes in one standard, just 3 screws, everything comes off now. So that's a big improvement right there if you ask me. Now, as far as to get to the board, you do have to remove the screw there, 2 screws in there that will remove this plastic. Then you have 1 screw right in here, which will remove the board. Now, as far as does the Virtue board work in this marker, I'm not 100% sure. This generation of Mini does come with the Shockwave board, which is a fine board. It works great. It has the modes you need. So that's just word of the wise for right now. So as you can see internally, not too much has changed on this section. It's pretty much the same except for the front. The front they've done a lot of upgrades to, along with the ASA, aka the high pressure regulator. Now, the top half. What they've changed is, of course, now you have a micro switch instead of the helix or the opto, whatever you prefer to call it. You now have a front block, which is actually what helps assist the marker to go in 2 sections. Now, if you notice, this is in part, and this is not flying out of the marker like it does in the Mini. So, let's go ahead and find out why. And we'll go ahead. Let's talk about this first. The marker now, instead of the mini, what it did, you had a protruding pin right here, which plugged in, sat in the top of the bolt assembly. Then you had a screw that would go all the way through and basically lock it in place. What this one now does, the pin is on the bottom. And we can see that right there on the bolt. As you put the bolt in, when this goes up, it sits like that. That's all it does. So if you try to accidentally turn it, the screw is going to grab it every time. So set this aside. As far as the bolt assembly, they have made it smaller. It is not the same length as a regular mini. We actually checked that in the storefront. It is smaller now. It still has the front and it still has the back, but it's not as big as in the mini or as in the axe. They have condensed it. This right here is a good way for a marker to go. This will tell me, one, you're going to not have as many O-rings, as you can see. Two, you're going to be able to shoot higher rates of fire due to the fact that the bolt is not cycling as much. Now, it does come with a soft tip bolt. From what I've seen and what I've heard, you can use the Boss bolt, the Tech T bolt, or the Lurker bolt in this marker. It should work. We haven't tested it yet. The spring, I've noticed, really has a habit of sticking into the marker, which, if you ask me, isn't a bad idea. The reason why I'm saying it's not a bad idea, a lot of people, when I work on their minis or their axes, flip the spring around. So the spring is actually not in the correct spot. With this, basically, it can come out. We'll get it out for you, but it's not the easiest in the world. And I like that idea because that means no one's going to mess with their spring. So as you can see, it's in there. So, of course, it's brand new. It's not broken in yet. So bear with me on that, everybody. So believe it or not, that is about it. I know you see the videos talking about it, but you haven't seen one ripped apart. So there we go. So let's go ahead and do this now. Let's put it back together. Okay. Now the marker itself, overall for the price, and these are going for $379, it's not a bad deal. Okay. It's actually a pretty good price for a marker. Okay. So we'll go ahead and we'll begin to just slowly screw it in by hand first. Okay, then we'll take the Allen. Oops, sorry about that. And I know this is boring, but hey, this helps you learn. Okay, so now that's in. The screw with the actual raised Allen goes right here in the front. Right here. Let's go ahead and get that one in too now. Now this one you don't have to torque down. Let's go ahead and get the camera on there. You don't have to torque it down. You just have to get it to the point that it begins to get a little harder to tighten. You're done. Don't over torque that. So now, when you put in your bolt assembly, there's only one way it can go in. So we'll go ahead. That's the only way it can go in. So we'll pull it out again. If you don't have that lined up, it's not going to go in. You have to line it up perfect. So now we'll do the same thing. We'll go ahead and we'll put the back screw in. Now with the Shockwave board, it is going to program just like a Virtue. You hold the trigger down and you turn the marker on. That is it. Okay, so there's that. Battery, and of course, positive, negative, so there's no excuse why you don't know where to put it in. Okay. So what we've noticed about the front grip, I recommend putting the bottom ones in first. then putting the top ones in. The reason why, it's a little bit easier to move the rubber. Okay. Now the one thing too is with the 379, you are just going to get a standard one-piece barrel. It does have more porting than the stock mini barrel, but it's still a one-piece. I always recommend purchasing a Stella barrel or a Deadly Wind or a Shaft 4 or a Critical, whatever you prefer. Get an update barrel. It helps. Now, we have shot it a little bit. It does shoot smooth. It is a very smooth shooting marker. I'm not going to lie about that. And it's very quiet. It doesn't have a lot of exhaust leak. It doesn't kick like a mule. But we'll cover that more in the shooting video, everybody. Okay. And we are done. It is that simple. Can't wait to really use this. Can't wait to dive into this marker and really play with it. So far, we like it. It's lightweight. It's compact. I'm a pretty big sized dude. Like everyone's met me. I am 6'1". This marker is not hard for me to shoot. I thought it was going to be, am I going to break it? It's a pretty firm marker. So other than that, everybody, thank you very much for watching. This is Jason with the Empire Mini GS, ripping it apart.